Hey guys, it's Robin and welcome back to the Science of Self-Care. Today we're going to talk about ways that you can eat healthy on a budget, and this is something really near and dear to my heart because I run a startup and I am trying to save my money and invest my money in my own business, but at the same time, I'm sure you can tell I'm a bit of a health nut and I realize it's really important to take care of my mental and physical health, also for the sake of my business. So I found a number of ways to really make my dollars or euros go farther, and I'd love to share them with you. So here we go, 7 tips to eat healthy on a budget. Tip number 1 is to eat frozen produce. Frozen produce is typically going to cost a fraction of the cost of its fresh produce counterpart, and I think a lot of people have this perception that frozen produce is in some way less healthy than fresh produce, when that's actually not the case. Frozen produce is flash frozen at peak ripeness. So for example, blueberries are going to be flash frozen at their optimal point of ripeness, sweetness. At this point, the berries also are very rich in antioxidants and micronutrients, and all of this is then frozen and preserved until it reaches your freezer and your mouth. So I'm sure someone could make a very strong argument for the fact that frozen produce may actually even be more nutrient dense than fresh produce. Number 2 is to buy foods in bulk, and especially if you're living alone or maybe just with a partner, you're often just based on the price tag going to opt for the smaller version of something. But buying basics like olive oil, rice, oats, buying these things in bulk can really save you in the long run because you're ultimately going to be eating them, especially dried goods that will just be staples in your kitchen. Buy the big olive oil, buy the big bag of rice, and that will save you a lot of money. The next tip is to buy what is locally grown and seasonally available. This is not only good for environmental reasons, buying fresh local produce, but it's also good for your budgets because it doesn't have to go through all that transport. And so for me, now living in the Netherlands, kale is a staple vegetable and that makes it cheap. So figure out what is grown in your area. Even if you've never cooked with a vegetable that's grown locally, you can consider it a kind of fun experimentation to consume this in a way that is delicious for your palate. Also, often the prices at the grocery store will reflect what is locally available. Now, I do recognize that some people, especially in the United States, live in food deserts, and this is a huge problem. In this case, I would definitely suggest, in addition to frozen goods, buying canned goods. You do want to watch out for extra additives. A lot of canned goods contain unnecessary added sugars and all sorts of preservatives. Preservatives and gums aren't inherently bad, but there's some research that it may not be the best for the health of our microbiome. So although a lot of these added ingredients are safe and food grade and FDA approved, we still are not entirely sure of how they affect our microbiome. So I like to, when buying canned goods, really stick to the basics. If I'm buying canned beans, buying beans that just the ingredients say water, beans, salt. Simple, easy. If you are afraid of the high sodium content in canned goods, you can also dilute the sodium by turning your canned goods into soups or curries, or something with a lot of water content, so you can sort of dilute the amount of sodium per portion size, if that makes sense. The next tip I have is to cook more and freeze portions. I know a lot of people tell me they aren't actually able to eat all of their produce and it goes bad before they've finished it, or maybe their plans change and they don't actually stay home for dinner that night. Even if you have too many vegetables in your fridge, I would say just throw it all together in a curry and cook a giant portion and just freeze little bits. Your future self will thank you because you've pre-made yourself dinner, but you also ensure that you're able to use all your produce before it expires. If you have fruits that are gonna go bad, blend them all up into a smoothie and you can make popsicles from them, or you can just make little smoothie packets that can be thawed for a later date, or you can even make, healthy ice cream. There's so many ways to prepare your fresh fruits and vegetables in a way that they can be bulk frozen so that you never have to throw produce away. Again, this is environmentally friendly, but it's also budget friendly. It's just a waste if you are not even consuming everything that you're buying. certain vegetables can actually be regrown from their stems. I made a whole video on this called Regrow Your Own Greens. I will link that below. Spring onions, celery, these things can actually be regrown from the little bits of the grocery store version. My next tip is to repurpose all of your leftovers, and I literally mean every single leftover you have. This is a tip that I've found also helps me from overeating. I think a lot of us grow up thinking we have to finish our plate, we have to finish all the portions so that we don't waste food. But that's silly because it's not either you eat it or you throw it away. There's also a third option of saving those last bites. So if I make a big bowl of oatmeal, and even if I've eaten most of it, but I still have a little bit left, I won't throw that away. I will actually save it by repurposing it into another meal. So we'll take that little bit of oatmeal and actually turn it into a topping for a yogurt bowl, for example. So I will then prepare in a little Tupperware a beautiful bowl of yogurt with that little bit of oatmeal and some hemp seeds or something else. I'll make it look beautiful and ready to be eaten at a future date. And then when I do feel like eating again, whether it's later that day or the next day, I have this pre-made little meal that is just wonderful and made with so much love and care, and it uses up the leftovers that I wasn't able to consume at the previous meal. Again, this is not only good for your budget, but it's also good for your mental relationship with food, so you don't feel you have to eat everything or that you feel guilty throwing something away. There's a third option. Save it and enjoy it and savor it. My next tip is to shop around, and what I've noticed is that different stores really have different prices for different goods, and sometimes you'd be surprised. Even a cheap grocery store might randomly have one item be kind of expensive that in another store is quite cheap. So I just kind of keep tabs on what's available where. For example, my local pharmacy sells seeds like hemp seeds and flax seeds at a much cheaper price than my local grocery store. So when I need seeds, I buy them at the pharmacy. It may be completely different in your area, but just going into different stores, always keeping different tabs on prices of things, you'll realize how arbitrary a lot of prices are and how much prices are based on the marketer's idea of what state the shopper will be in when they are in that shop. That sounds kind of convoluted, but a great example to really understand this is that things like toothpaste are really expensive in my grocery store because the idea is that if someone is buying toothpaste at the grocery store, they're doing it out of convenience. They don't really care about the price. They're doing their groceries, and so the marketers know that they can capitalize on the fact that it's convenient and charge a few extra euros on top of the price that that toothpaste would cost at the pharmacy next door. Just pay attention and realize that a lot of pricing is arbitrary. And related to this point is my last point of not being fooled by health marketing. And a lot of times things that are marketed as a health food have quite a hefty price tag, when in reality the ingredients may be the exact same as the generic counterpart that's located in a different part of the store. So in my local grocery store, there's a health food section where things just cost more than the other sections. So I can find plain oatmeal in the health food section that costs 3 times as much as the plain generic oatmeal in the cereal section. So being aware that just because something has a healthy label doesn't mean that it is healthier, and just because something has a generic label doesn't mean that it's not a quality product. So with that, I would say read the ingredients of health food items, and you may also be surprised that sometimes something that is labeled as healthy is not actually that healthy. It has a lot of added sugars and unnecessary ingredients that you might not actually want in your foods, whereas really plain bulk items that maybe don't have the sexiest packaging but are just plain in ingredients can actually be the healthier option and the cheaper option. So these were just some simple tips on how you can eat healthily on a budget. It's totally possible. I do it every single day, and I would also invite you to make it fun and playful and make it kind of like a game. Maybe this is the Dutch person in me, but I love hunting for good deals. I love kind of figuring out, oh wow, it's so much cheaper if I buy this over here. And to me, it's really just a playful experience. And I think that's the best way to approach anything in life. Budgeting can sound really unsexy, but if you make it fun, it actually can be fun. Same with healthy eating, so go roam around your grocery store. If you have any specific questions, leave them down in the comments. I try to answer every single comment on every video, so I'm always here to offer more tips, tricks, and answers. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.